Hi, everyone. I think I'm here on the live. Technology is just an absolute beautiful gift. I'm so happy to be here with everyone today. I'm going to give everybody a few minutes just for people to begin to arrive. Feel free to comment and say hi as you're dropping in. This is so fun. I'll introduce myself in a minute again, but my name is Julie Henson, and I'm the Donor Relations Officer at Coburn Place. I've been at Coburn Place for 5 years. I started as the volunteer coordinator, and then I was the community engagement director for about 2 years. And now I have been spending the last year as the donor relations officer, which is a really incredible opportunity. I get to work with mostly our individual donors who are partnering with us to make our mission happen. So I always tell people that I have the best job in the world, and I do. All right. So today we are so thankful for giving us the chance to share a stream with them and talk about what Coburn Place is and what Coburn Place is doing right now in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. Um, if I have any of the Coburn Place staff on here, I would love for you to comment, to say hi so I know you're here and can refer to you if I have any questions that people are bringing up. And if I have any of the development team, I'd love for you to comment and tell me that the stream is working. Awesome. We just had our staff meeting this morning, so I have some really cool success stories that I'm excited to be able to share right away with everyone so you can see firsthand the impact that's still happening at Coburn Place and what our mission looks like right now. And I wanted to let you know that I'm going to be on here for about 30 minutes. I'm going to be first just sharing what Coburn Place is in case anyone watching this video doesn't know. And then I'm going to be really talking specifically about what our services look like right now amidst the pandemic, and amidst this kind of huge surge in need that we're seeing. At any time, if anyone wants to drop in with comments, um, I would love to be able to see them. Let's see. All right. So Coburn Place, we provide safe housing and well-being advocacy and a whole range of supportive services to people that are experiencing interpersonal abuse. When we talk about interpersonal abuse, we mean things like domestic violence, stalking, human trafficking. We are not bound by any geographic restrictions. So while we are located here in Indianapolis and serve certainly a large number of folks here in the city or in the surrounding counties, we work with folks across the country. We have two different options for housing that we typically provide. The first is in our on-site facility. That is 35 apartments at our flagship building on 38th Street. We're actually in an old IPS elementary school. And what used to be the classrooms are now apartments. So we have 35, 15 single bedrooms, 15 two bedrooms, and 5 3-bedroom apartments. And families or individuals can live there rent and utility free for up to 2 years. We have been there. Next year will be our 25th birthday. So we have been there for 24 years and have served over 2,000 adults and children during that time. Some of the things that are really special about our on-site facility is that when we say apartments, we truly mean apartments. These are bedrooms, bathrooms. They are privately leased to our families, even though they aren't paying for rent and utilities. They're still building a rental history, which is really important as they go on to permanent housing in the future. Now, we also have a community-based housing option for survivors that have lower safety and self-sufficiency barriers. This one, sometimes you'll hear it called rapid rehousing if you're reading like a news article. That's the federal term for it. So rapid rehousing takes families or individuals that have low safety barriers, their abuser is in jail, their abuser's out of state, there's not a high lethality risk, and it places them directly into apartments, houses, townhouses, anywhere in the city. And we help with rent and utility support for up to a year while also really providing access to all of our support services to those families. And we also have some bridge funding or some flexible funding that we typically use with our community-based housing families or individuals that can help them lower barriers to get them housed right away. Oftentimes we find that survivors who have low self-sufficiency barriers, so for instance, they already have a full-time job, or they are about to have a full-time job, they're about to finish school, and they're going to have a job that's going to be able to provide stability for them. What we are often finding is that the thing that they need is just help getting housed. They need help with that initial security deposit. They need help with that first month's rent, last month's rent. I think we can all relate to just the cost, that huge cost barrier to getting housed initially. So we have a survivor-led program. All of our services, whether they're on-site, whether they're off-site, all of them are based on survivors and what survivors need. They are trauma-informed and they're voluntary. So we really meet survivors where they are, figure out what they need in that moment, and then work from there to help empower them and help them build skills they need to be able to live safely housed and free from violence and free from economic turmoil or having a risk of being experiencing housing insecurity at another point in the future. We have two types of advocates. We have our well-being advocates, and we also have our housing advocates. So we have a full spectrum team. Our well-being advocates are working with our program participants on all of the things that are emotional and equipping. So they are really unpacking what are those things that led me, that I might not have even realized, but what were those things that led me into being in an unsafe relationship, and how can I identify them in the future? They're the ones that are helping them identify a new and safe support system for them, and are acting as that support system in the meantime for that. And forever. Our services never end. There's no expiration date on them. While our housing has limits for when we can pay for rent and utilities and when people can stay housed on site, our support services never end. Um, are there any questions about this? Yes, I just got a really good question. What looks different at Coburn Place right now in the midst of COVID? So a lot looks different right now in the midst of COVID. I'm sure all of us in all of our houses right now, even just watching me on a Facebook Live, know everything is different right now with the pandemic. So at Coburn Place, one of the big things is that there aren't staff there. We have a full team that is typically there doing in-person case management and running workshops and really being present in our survivors' lives. And we've had to really think strategically about what that looks like. So our essential services are what's happening still on site. So we have an incredible team of front desk mentors that run the front desk 24 hours a day, 365 days a week, 365 days a year. And those mentors have not changed. That is our frontline workers. They are there all the time to make sure that people can safely get into our building, and that people that shouldn't be at our building are not at our building. So they are ensuring safety. They are also meeting those direct needs of our survivors all the time. We have so many stories of survivors going to those front desk mentors at midnight, 2 a.m, because they haven't been able to sleep through the night and they need someone to talk to. So having that person there 24 hours a day is essential for us. So our front desk mentors are there still all the time. We are also still moving people in. We are on our 8th move-in on site at Coburn Place. So that is one of the things that has stayed the same, is that folks need housing and they need it urgently. One of the big differences that we're seeing amidst the pandemic is that the need has grown exponentially. 8 weeks ago, before the pandemic began, or before we had our stay-at-home orders here in Indianapolis, we had 135 households on the waiting list for our on-site housing. So I say that because I want to showcase the fact that before the stay-at-home orders began, we still had a huge need. Since the stay-at-home orders, our crisis calls have doubled. We know that that is something that's echoing across the country right now, that some states, some metropolitan areas are seeing double, triple the need right now. And we know that that's because survivors are locked in homes that are unsafe. Imagine being asked to shelter in place at a home, and home is the most dangerous place for you. And I included, if that's you, if you're watching this and you're in an unsafe situation, I included both a number that you can call for help at Coburn Place and also a number that you could text. You can do that 24 hours a day. We will have an advocate be able to reach back out to you to help build that safety plan. So the big need that we're seeing at Coburn Place is that the need has increased exponentially. And we're also seeing that as COVID takes root, a lot of the other facilities that we might be able to help survivors bridge to get to safety are also experiencing the disease and the virus right now. So every week, the wonderful Indiana Coalition Against Domestic Violence sends out a shelter status list. And on that list, there are many shelters that are unable to take survivors right now, whether that's because they have an active outbreak happening in their facility, or whether that's because they're full because of this surge in need. So one of the things that we're working on right now is helping identify survivors that are calling in crisis that have a huge lethality risk and getting them to hotels. We are stepping into being more focused on bridge housing and emergency housing than we ever have been before, because the need is astronomical and survivors need it. We have always been doing mobile advocacy, but a big difference since the pandemic and the stay-at-home orders is that all of our advocacy now is mobile advocacy. So all of our advocates are meeting with program participants. They're just doing it via phone, via video, via text message. And there's a lot of different barriers with that. Calls dropping, things happening, just being, perhaps you are an emergency shelter and it's loud and you don't have a space where you can really go and engage with your well-being advocate about the things that you kind of need to dig into. The last thing before I go on to another question, even though our need is huge right now, we are anticipating that when the stay-at-home orders ease, our need grows even more. We know that we're not actually going to be able to clearly see how in danger survivors are until many of them are able to go someplace safe to call or text us for help. We have advocates right now that are building safety plans with survivors when their abuser is in the same room, in the next room over. It's a very dangerous situation for survivors of abuse right now, and we are stepping into that gap with as much resources and as much support as we can, knowing that it is likely to surge even greater once the restrictions on the stay-at-home orders start to ease in the next month or two. The waitlist for housing is anywhere from 6 months to a year at Coburn Place. That has not changed for our offsite housing. Typically, that is a little bit shorter, sometimes 1 to 3 months for that. So usually a survivor would be able to go to an emergency shelter. So now in that space of emergency shelters potentially not being able to house survivors, that's why we're looking into those new kind of ideas about how we could provide survivors with bridge emergency housing while they stabilize, just to wait for our housing to open up. A survivor might access services. This question's great. How does a survivor access services for the first time? They might do that through an emergency shelter. They might do it from watching this Facebook Live and texting or calling. They might look us up online. A lot of times survivors will do this when they can. So they might be doing it at a library or at a coffee shop or their children's school. So these are places that aren't accessible right now. They don't exist. And so that's where we're seeing the need for safety planning looking a lot different, because our advocates are taking the moments when they have it to start building that, building those plans to keep survivors safe, even in the midst of potentially being ordered to stay in the same house as someone that's very dangerous for them. I have a question. Do we have enough masks and gloves? I think like everyone, we could always use more masks and gloves, but we have had some incredible supporters sew handmade masks for us, sew cloth masks for us that we've been able to be giving out to all of our program participants on a rolling basis to make sure that, like everyone, we're following those new CDC guidelines as they arise and making sure that if social distancing isn't possible, we're wearing those masks. We have had 8 move-ins off-site. And one of the beautiful things is that a lot of these move-ins that are happening off-site are happening because Coburn Place is referring those program participants. And so where right now a lot of move-ins are shut down because, you know, we're not able to be in the same room with each other. We're still being able to see survivors get to safe places where they can shelter in place through those landlord relationships that our housing team has been building. Can survivors apply for protective orders during this time? Yes. Text or call, and we will have an advocate that can work with you on that specific thing. Yes. How can I best help Coburn Place right now? That's a great question. There are 3 big ways that you can help Coburn Place right now. One, we are in need of general operating support, flexible dollars. And when I say flexible dollars, I mean things that we can use for whatever the most urgent need is as it arises. We're seeing that change from day to day, hour to hour, as we build a program to be able to house survivors in hotels. That is an area that we're saying, okay, well, what funding do we need for that? We've not ever had to really fold that into our full-time services. So how can we? We're looking and saying, how can we still get people housed on site, even though we still need new carpeting, we still need new paint, we still have all of those structural things that need to happen in a short time for folks moving on site. We also have a huge need right now for in-kind items. Like everyone, we are longing for Clorox wipes, paper towels, toilet paper. I want to do a huge thank you to our in-kind supporters because we have had a stocked pantry because of our incredible in-kind supporters that have been donating so generously for years. We have not been out of toilet paper or Clorox wipes or Kleenex or any of those things that are not on pantry shelves right now at grocery stores. And that is because of supporters like you who are just incredible and supporting our pantry for years and years. We are always in need of cold and flu medicine, of Tylenol, of children's Tylenol, of things like that. So those are still huge needs. One of the big things that we've seen is in our supply chain is that our supply chain of in-kind furniture has really, really slowed because of the danger for folks going to pick up furniture or for folks being able to bring it on site. So we have had some really incredible donors that have provided us with funds so that we can purchase furniture quickly to make sure that program participants, families, adults, and children have beds when they move into our facility. And that is an incredibly urgent need for people to have furniture in their new safe spaces, especially when the stakes for staying at home are incredibly high. We all need to be staying at home. Do we still have a need for bus passes? We always have a need for bus passes. We will have a need for bus passes for the rest of time. That is a huge means of transportation for all of our program participants, whether they're offsite out in the community or on-site at Coburn Place. A beautiful thing right now is that the buses are free, which is really wonderful. So right now the bus pass need is low, but I also want to highlight for many of our survivors who are working essential jobs at grocery stores or hospitals and don't have a car, getting on a bus is another huge source of anxiety because it's another source potentially of exposure. So as we have these essential workers, the difficult decisions that our survivors are making are just heroic to me. We have so many people that are looking for work and who are using this. I've had several of our housing advocates talk about our clients out in the community who are using this as an opportunity to pick up in those areas that we're seeing new jobs come open at Amazon, at Instacart, all of these different jobs coming up. So our survivors are you and me. Our survivors are at home with children, figuring out e-learning. One of our big barriers was the Wi-Fi in our building is very spotty. We're a 100-year-old building made of solid cinder block. And our incredible partners at School on Wheels, they donated a MiFi. So our families are able to check that out in 3-hour increments so that our students are able to do that e-learning. And that is just a really incredible gift from School on Wheels that is allowing our families to lower that specific barrier. Yeah, we have a need. Our community engagement manager just texted me and said, our big need right now is for dish soap, body wash, and easy made meals. Powdered milk is one. We are asking if it's possible for in-kind donors to ship things directly to us through Amazon or Walmart.com. Other than that, we do have a no contact delivery system set up. So if you're interested in that, one of our Coburn Place moderators will put the emails that you would need to email with that there. We also have some, I will post this in the comments when the live is done. We have volunteer opportunities that you can do from home. And a lot of them are ones that you could do with kiddos. So if you're looking for a way to still make an impact at Coburn Place and do some volunteer work, we have those opportunities. They include packing diapers for our families and trash bags. We are building, what's coming down the pike for us is we're building some new opportunities that are still going to be social distance, but you might be doing some weeding at Coburn Place or watering where you wouldn't come into contact with anyone, but you would still be able to support the mission. So volunteerism at Coburn Place is still a huge need, and it's ever evolving as as the orders evolve and as the CDC guideline recommendations come out. We are very in tune with that and making sure that we're keeping everybody safe, our residents, our staff, our volunteers, all of our supporters. The safety is paramount for us. Let me see what other questions I have. Gas cards are, I just had a question come in that said, do survivors have vehicles and do they need gas cards? Some of our survivors do have vehicles, and I would say gas cards would be an incredible gift for survivors who potentially have picked up a different job somewhere or who have lost their jobs. A majority of our survivors are like so many of us and have lost work due to the pandemic and the stay-at-home orders. So survivors would absolutely be able to make use of gas cards. I talked about volunteering, and I just got a question. When is the next volunteer orientation? We are doing an online volunteer orientation, and that's going to be on May 7th. And I'll put also a link to sign up for that in the comments. What other questions? I want to share some success stories with you. We have one little baby at our facility. I guess they're not that little anymore, who this last week just started taking their first steps. And that just made my heart grow 17 sizes. This morning when we were talking about it in our all staff meeting, thinking of in the middle of this unprecedented time, in another layer of experiencing domestic violence and homelessness and needing to flee, having a safe haven where your child is taking safe first steps, that is what's still happening at Coburn Place, and that is what our supporters are making happen at Coburn Place, is providing that safe, holistic space for people to start over and for people to catch their breath. Now more than ever, that is what your financial gifts, that is what your volunteerism, that is what your in-kind gifts, that is what you're doing. You're creating a safe space for people to shelter, for people to rest, for people to stop being afraid, to have one moment of not being afraid of exposure to the virus, but also a moment of not being afraid of where their children are going to sleep that night, what their children are going to eat, whether or not they're going to be in danger of their life that day. That is the gift that you, our supporters, are giving our families right now. I also wanted to share that we have so many clients who are adapting to this mobile advocacy and adapting to our services as they change, who, even though potentially they have lost jobs, who, because of the support you're providing, are able to pivot the way the rest of us are being asked. Okay, pivot. Okay, transition to what's next. Look what other opportunities there are, because there is safe housing, because there is rent and utility support, because the folks that you're helping in 2019, 884 adults and children were who Coburn Place was able to serve because of our supporters. Um, that is the space that you're allowing people to truly incubate and think through what's going to come next for them. Survivors are, I just got a question, are survivors still receiving case management? Yes, yes, yes. It's all mobile right now. So that might be over the phone. That might be soon over the next few months as things develop and as things become safer potentially. We will start considering whether we can safely do 6 feet apart in-person case management. But we know that case management and our advocates who are walking alongside our program participants are helping them rebuild, and that is a key component of our services. And our services have only the need for them has only escalated, and so we are stepping into that space saying, what else can we do? We're doing a case management, and what else? What else can we provide survivors at this time? Any more questions? I want to thank you all for spending half hour with me. I want to remind you, if you are sharing this on your page, please make sure that you share the number to text or the number to call if someone is experiencing abuse. If you're interested in learning more, we will put contact information in the comments, but I would love to talk to you about what that looks like for you. We appreciate so much Indy Maven. I love this group of women. I love the empowerment and the connection that's running in the city when people really join hands and say, look what we can do together. And that is at its heart what Coburn Place is a place for our advocates and our supporters to join hands with survivors and say, what do you need? Where are you headed? And how can we help you get there? I just got one more question before I go. How are kids receiving services? Our children's services department is abundant and thriving right now. Miss Tia, our advocate, is rising to meet the need of our kids and our families because, like everyone, they are out of school right now and struggling with e-learning and struggling with working parents and all of that comes along with these difficult times. And Tia has an activity cart that she refills every week that has things like watercolor. Oh, there's so many things on it. Calligraphy, books, games, puzzles, everything that you could think of that is a support to our parents as well as our children, because it's providing those activities that help them be able to manage staying inside all day. They also are getting care packages. Typically, over the weekend, we provide all of our program participant kiddos care packages with snacks. And we're doing that for all of our children every week. So they're all getting brown paper bags of shelf stable, healthy snacks that they can use. We also have a children's library down in our children's services area, and Tia always calls that her letting library, and that is true more than ever because if a child wants a book, she lets them have it. It's not a lending library. They can keep that book forever. So when we're all back to business as usual, we will have a huge need for book donations because those are just emptying off of our shelves. And she also is working directly with parents to help them come up with plans for what e-learning could look like or what a kiddo's goal is during this time. What do they want to learn during these few months? Is it something to do with science? Is it something to do with English? Is it something that Tia can work with our other partners at School and Wheels and the Indianapolis Art Center and places like that where we can create and design experiences and opportunities for kiddos? I'm so appreciative of Indy Maven. I'm so appreciative of everyone tuning in. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we look forward to connecting with you in the future.